Hi, I'm Leslie O'Neill with Market Immersion. Thank you so much for joining us today for Business Boot Camp, brought to you by Market Immersion and bringing you these amazing experts of MI, some of the top professionals in their field, and will be sharing their expert advice with you. Please invite your friends and share the link to register on your social sites. We want everyone to benefit from this fabulous free information. Keep an eye on the schedule for the list of presenters and topics, so check your email. You won't want to miss any information that would be a major difference to you and to your business. The dates and times will adjust to your specific location. That is why it's important for each person to register directly. So here's a little rundown of our experts of MI. We have Ronnie Bincer, the Hangout helper. Ronnie runs a members-only group called Hangout Mastery. If you want to learn Hangouts and look like a pro, Ronnie is the man. He keeps up with all the constant changes between Google and YouTube and with various tools so that we don't have to. He has quite an extensive, incredible background, which you'll hear all about very soon. You're going to love Ronnie. We have Brandon Lucero, Sold with Video. He shows you step-by-step how to broadcast your powerful message directly to your local customer and use SEO to rank at the top of Google. He will give you tips on shooting affordable video without fancy equipment or without hiring an expensive video crew. Scott McMillan is here with Marketing Power LLC, bringing his best information about reputation management. Having good reviews can make or break your online presence. His focus is on your local directory listings like Apple and Google Maps. He optimizes businesses, making sure your website and directory profiles match, so they can be found by search engines. We have the lovely Tina Sibley of Wicked Webinars coming to us all the way from across the pond in the UK. We'll explain why webinars are such a great marketing tool, how they've helped her business, and what they'll do for yours. Tina is vibrant and vivacious. She lights up the room. She's a great person and a fabulous instructor, and you'll love to listen to her voice. Next up, we have Jerry Rocco, co-founder and marketing director of 22 Social. They considered busy entrepreneurs and thought leaders like you and me by removing the technical financial barriers from their social media marketing tool. My friends, this is the greatest tool out there. Renee and Jerry are incredibly intelligent, and they will show you how to make your message go viral. Then we have Dave Sherman, training specialist with Infusionsoft. This, friends, is a very robust responder. It will help you get organized, automate marketing, close more deals. It has a CRM, e-commerce, and it integrates with so many other applications. Once you learn to use it properly, it is really cool. At least we have Brad Meyer, Brad Advisory. He spent 15 years as a financial advisor on Wall Street. A strategist and chief writer for New York City investor relations firms, Brad has 24 different types of writing styles, from white papers, business plans, website content, marketing materials. He does slogans, and the list goes on. And now it's time to introduce you to one of our super cool experts of MI. Ronnie Bincer traveled internationally for 12 years as an Adobe certified trainer. He was in variable data print marketing. He understands macro and micro communication. Ronnie was and is a video SEO consultant. In this role, he learned the ins and outs of YouTube that have become an integral part of Google Plus and Hangout. Ronnie Bincer, known as the Hangout Helper, is a coach and master trainer. He actively empowers others to harness technology and apply it to their own industries. Thousands of people worldwide are following his lead and mastering the use and power of social media, video, broadcast communications, and discoverability online. Ronnie has the unique ability to assist variable industries and market niches to blend the visual strength of Hangout broadcasts with other social tools to communicate their message in the most effective way possible. He communicates his game-changing techniques and insights daily through a members-only community called Hangout Mastery Community. I can personally vouch for this. When Ronnie Bincer recommends, Google listens. With no further ado, please welcome Ronnie Bincer.
Well, thank you very much, Leslie. It's an honor to be here.
You are truly the master here, Ronnie. How long have you been doing Hangouts?
Well, it seems like forever, but I think it's only been about 2.5 years. May 2012, they came out with a Hangout and Air option, and I jumped right on it.
Wow. So for those that have not seen one before, Ronnie, what is a Hangout?
Well, Hangouts are like a video chat, and there's two big divisions between them. Actually, because I know so much about it, there's really three, but there's two we're going to focus on. One is a private viewing area where you've got a small room of people, and they're all meeting with each other. And the other is take that and stick it on the internet like a live TV broadcast. So you got the private part and the live part. The live part is called a Hangout on Air. The other one is just called a Hangout call or a Hangout video call. Well, a Hangout comes in at least two different flavors. One are private video meeting rooms, like a private video chat. And the other is a live TV broadcast type show where you're taking a chat and projecting it out into the internet. Those are called Hangouts on Air, and they're automatically recorded on YouTube for you.
Awesome. So how should people get started with Hangouts?
Well, what I find a lot of people when they start up with Hangouts is they get in too deep too fast. And so what I strongly suggest they do is start out in a Hangout room on their own. Just poke around, play with the buttons, see what they do, then maybe invite a friend in or a coworker, and then go and start practicing Hangouts on Air by being invited into a show as a guest. Then you can actually create your own private ones or unlisted ones, and then finally get to the point everybody really wants to be and host your own Hangout on Air.
What are some of the advantages of people doing Hangouts on Air?
Well, the big advantages when you get right down to it is the fact that Google owns this technology. Google owns YouTube. And because Hangouts on Air use both YouTube and Google together, you've got the big powerhouse right behind you supporting and encouraging you to do everything you're doing on Hangouts. And if it matters to be visible online, then doing Hangouts is probably the place you need to be.
With Google and YouTube, there's some incredible SEO value, right?
Certainly, you got the #1 and the #2 search engines in the world all packaged together inside Hangouts.
How do people add the banner at the bottom?
This thing that's down at the bottom is called the lower third, and there's a set of add-ons to Hangouts which are called apps. Think of it like a WordPress metaphor where you've got plugins, something that adds on to the functionality of a Hangout. So the Hangout app that you use to get this nifty thing on the bottom is called the Hangout Toolbox. And within the Hangout Toolbox, one of the tools is called the lower third. And you can do some standard stuff or you can do some fancier stuff, which is what we've got right here, where you can use what are called custom overlays. And I know you're going to ask, so let me just point this out. When you set one up, you can save it as a preset. So you could, like right now, this has been a long day of Hangouts for me. I actually had 3 or 4 other shows that each had their own special lower third. And so each one that I come in, I just choose it from the list on the menu of presets, and now I'm ready to go for my next show.
Wow. And then I give you one too.
Yep.
What does one need to do to be a great guest?
Ah, that's a big question. There's technical and then there's social, both involved with being a great guest. Some of the things that a lot of people don't realize is when they're live, they might not know they're live. In other words, you might be a guest on somebody's show. And so the biggest tip to do is be on your A game at all times. You never know if you're actually in the main window, that main box, or not when you're the guest. That's something I highly recommend. But another thing is to do something about your lighting and your sound and your video quality. And all that involves various different technology. But it's things that you need to do to make yourself look as professional as possible. And I think having that lower third is a big part of it. But if your sound is bad or the lighting is bad, that also kind of distracts from your message. So you really want to make sure you got good sound and good lighting.
All right, because that was my next question about the lighting. So could you talk a little bit more in detail about what you need to do for the lighting?
You bet. More light in front of you than behind you is the simple answer. But a little bit more in depth, I have lights up on the sides coming at different angles, and I use what are called LED lights. The reason why is I'm in a room that I'm sitting here all day long in Hangouts, and it would get really hot in here. So the LED lights are nice and cool, and the color of those lights are consistent. Plus the fact is they last around 25,000 hours each, means I don't have to change the light bulbs that often. So LED lights, really, really important. More light in front of you than there is behind you, and try your best to not get a lot of shiny, glary things so that the reflections somehow hit the camera.
What about the camera? Speaking of cameras, is the built-in camera enough?
Well, this is a point of discussion I've been in a lot. Yes and no. It depends on your computer. If your computer has an HD video cam built in and it's a relatively new one, and it happens to be made by Apple, meaning the Macs have really good quality built-in ones, I think they're actually good enough. But you get more flexibility with the external ones because they tend to have more software, more capability to zoom or focus and adjust the quality of the picture. So in general, if you're really getting serious with this, you're probably going to buy yourself an external video cam. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. We're talking less than $100, but it's usually better than the built-in HD webcams that come with your computer.
How about microphone?
Microphone. Sound is real important when you get to these things. I use a headset. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. This one only costs $30. But there's other quality microphones that will make a big difference, and I guess I'll just talk about some brands. There's one called Blue, and that's the name of the brand, and the lower end of it's called a Blue Snowball, and then the higher end's called the Blue Yeti. And both of those are actually very good. And I would encourage you using some type of microphone that's different than what's built into the computer, because here's the biggest problem. When the microphone's right next to the speakers, and this is really common, with a Hangout, you're going to get echo. And it's not echo when you're talking, it's echo when other people are talking, and it's now coming out of your speaker right back into your microphone, causing an echo that people are wondering, where the heck's that coming from? And it turns out it's you. So you want to separate the sound, meaning the speaker, from the microphone, and that's going to be your best bet.
Awesome. What about backgrounds?
Backgrounds, I think, are real important because they bring you to a certain level of professionalism. I've got a background here that I paid good money for, and it's got my company logo there. But I also have, I don't know if you can see it on the sides, I have some curtains. So when I need to or I want to, I can close the curtain and then open it back up at other times when it's appropriate. If your background's messy, you just don't look as professional. And there's a little bit of a joke. It's called the cone of cleanliness. You ever heard of that? It's where you have this angle that comes out from the camera to what it can see, and everything else around me might be a real mess because stuff's piled up. But as far as you can tell, it's nice and clean and pretty.
I love it. So how do you make Hangouts more interactive?
The interactivity of a Hangout, in my mind, is what makes them special, and they're very different than other things out there that might be video conferencing, like Skype or, well, there's different ones, like webinar programs. The beauty of Hangouts is it's live, and then it automatically becomes a video afterwards. So while it's live, you can and should try to find a way to interact with your audience out there by asking them questions and getting responses. And then there's certain tools, as we'd mentioned before, the Hangout apps, that allow you to grab some of those questions or comments that people are doing out there and bring them right onto the screen. Now think about that. You can have up to 10 people generally inside the video room with you, but you could have literally thousands or hundreds of thousands of people watching from the outside, interacting with comments. You grab one of their comments and stick it right up on the screen and read it to people. What did you do? You just brought that person into the show without them having to be virtually in the film strip. And so as a result, now you took a fan and turned them into a raving fan because they were in the show. They're going to tell all their friends, and now the next time you do another show, they're all going to come in wanting to be involved as best they can. So this interaction is kind of like the dream that broadcasters from TV have had for years. Is like, if you're a broadcaster, you would love to get feedback immediately from the crowd out there, and this way the crowd can yell at the TV and you can yell right back.
So what is a scheduled Hangout on Air?
A scheduled Hangout on Air is Google's version, the latest version of Hangouts, Hangouts on Air. What you do is you basically go into the certain tools and you say, I want this Hangout on Air to start at this date and at this time, and it's going to last about this long. And you schedule it. So in essence, you have a date and time, and then you give it a title, you give it description, and then what it does is it builds what's called a scheduled Hangout on Air event, or you can just say it builds an event. Inside that event, you've got this window, which is where the video shows. And one of the beauties of this new method is if people, you send that link, for example, of the event. If people say, yes, I want to go, they get to say yes, maybe, or no, as to whether they're going to attend or not. If they say yes or maybe, it actually sticks a reminder for that particular event on their calendar. Because remember, you're scheduling this, which means it's going to happen maybe 1, 2, 3, 5 days from now. It will stick a reminder on that calendar, and here's the beauty of it all. 24 hours before your show starts, they get an alert, a reminder. 10 minutes before the show starts, they get another reminder. Because it's now integrated with their calendar, it starts giving them alerts. And in the process, it's built this event, which technically is what I like to call a landing page. It's the place that people go to watch the show. But the beauty, as we talked about before, the interaction, that all can happen in this event days beforehand. So you can get people all interested and excited about what's coming up in the event. During the live show, they can be chatting away with you. You can bring those comments onto the screen like we talked about. So that's before and during interaction. And then guess what? Afterwards, you can continue the conversation by interacting with their comments in the event, as well as, here's a big key, networking. You can find out all those interesting people that left great comments and start to connect with them even after the show's over. And then later on, if you can remember it, you have to keep track of these things. You can, when people ask you certain questions, you can point them to that event that happened 2 weeks ago or a year ago. And as long as the information is still valid, that's a wonderful place for them to go back and, guess what, revive that information. And all those people that were interacting get to see the reviving of it, and then they might say, oh yeah, I like that, and they go back and watch it again, or they add more comments, and then it starts to show up again in front of everybody's face. It's a wonderful way to keep the interaction.
That's awesome. All right, so how do you make a private Hangout broadcast?
The Hangouts, by default, the Hangout on Airs, these broadcast things, are by default public, which means they go out to anybody in the world, they can all see it. You've got another version of it which is called unlisted, which if you know anything about YouTube videos, this is the same methodology. You got private, public, and unlisted. The unlisted is sort of the in-betweener. So you can do that as well, but the private right now is done through YouTube. You don't have the option to do a private starting it from Google+. So remember this, Google owns both Google+ and YouTube. And the two work together really well, but sometimes you got to go to one interface to start it versus another interface to start it, and it depends on the type of Hangout on Air you want to do. I purposely do a lot of my Hangouts privately because here's what it does for me. It makes a recording of it. Real important. So if I'm meeting with a client one-on-one and we want to do a private session and we want that client to have a record, a video record of the meeting, I will create a private Hangout on Air through the YouTube interface. It's a YouTube live event, if you want to know technically. And I tell it I want this particular one to be private. And that way, while we're doing our session, nobody ever gets to see it. And after the session's over, I give permissions to view that private video to my client, and then only they can see it. So it's a really neat way to let YouTube do a lot of this heavy lifting of the recording for you by doing your Hangout on Air in a private environment.
And so many companies are moving their meetings to Hangouts. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, I know they're saving tons of money on all these traveling, the meetings where they usually travel.
Yeah, well, one of the one of the little pieces of history most people don't even know is that Google created these Hangouts for Google. It wasn't even for anybody else. They did it for themselves because they have offices literally all over the world. And to do meetings, the expense to fly people together just to get together to have a 3-hour meeting and then send them all back home was just ridiculous. So they came up with this tool set to use internally, and then at some point they said, hey, why don't we roll this out to the public, and then it kind of blossomed from there. So the point is, as a productivity tool, these private Hangouts are just incredible. I meet literally with people all over the world every single day, and I've never left my office to do those meetings. You think about how much money you save in transportation, parking, hotels, food. Sorry if you're in that business, but you have to find another way to take advantage of that. Bottom line, the ability for companies to be very productive with this Hangout tool is just unheard of. And then we go into this other realm of this private broadcast that you could do amongst your entire set of offices. You might have 10 offices across the world, and you need to get a message out to them that you don't want the competition to know about. You've got your own private broadcasting network with a private Hangout on air. And then it's recorded for those that weren't able to be there live. They can go watch this, but you can control who gets access to that particular video. So the uses of this as a productivity tool are just, it's limited only by your imagination, and then it's not even limited to that.
Right. That's amazing. Well, that kind of leads us into the next question then. What do you think of the future of Google Hangouts?
That's a good question. I've asked it a lot, and my explanation is the best I can go with what I'm legally allowed to say, because I'm not supposed to say certain things. The best thing I can say is I believe the quality of the stream is going to get better and better from a technological perspective. And we've already seen that. I mean, they shifted from a lower quality version to now, if you have the right hardware and the right internet connection, you can have HD quality of your Hangouts. That's gone and will continue. It's come a long way, and it will continue to get better. The other part, in my estimation, is that the quality of the shows, meaning the content that people are doing, is going to get better and better and better. So if you're relatively in the bottom, how would you say, the ground floor, this is still relatively new technology for a lot of people. But I've been around it for a long time. So from my mind, we need to up the game. And so what I'm doing when I help people is I try to help them get better quality with their technological quality, but also with the way they present themselves. What's a good moderator? What are the techniques you use? I try to help people understand how to help a show flow from the beginning to the end, as well as bringing in some special graphics or doing good quality screen shares. Actually, we haven't even talked about any of that stuff yet. There's a lot to cover. So quality,
I know.
Quality of content, I think, is going to be getting better. And in my mind, one of the things that I know they're working on, because I pushed the edge on this, is the mobile environment. The ability to be out there with your mobile device, capturing stuff and being like a mobile reporter is amazing. In the fact that I can do this without having a $50,000 or $100,000 TV truck hanging around me.
That's amazing. Ronnie, this stuff seems to be constantly changing all the time. How do you keep up?
It is a moving target. It's almost every day something changes. So what I do, this is my job, my full-time job. I'm actually on the computer playing around, testing with different people, making sure that things are working right, or if something just changed, trying to document that. So what my job, and I've come from a background of training, so whenever I look at something new that just happened, I don't just look and say, oh, look, a new button. I try to figure out, okay, how can I explain what the purpose of the new button is, along with telling them there's a new button. So it'll help you understand why you care, not just how to use it. And so I see that as my job, my full-time job. So I will frequently do training, whether it's one-on-one or other methods, to help people understand this constant moving tool, primarily because I'm passionate about it. And the other reason is everyone else is busy doing their own stuff, their own business, so they need someone like me to help them identify what's changed, why it matters, and does it matter for me.
Well, Ronnie's current rate for one-on-one consultations is $200 an hour. and these rates are in process to go up due to increased demand on Ronnie. So these training sessions that Ronnie has generously offered is valued at $1,266, the 6 sessions of training. In addition to that, you will receive a bonus video that Ronnie and I both created that includes some special tips for getting the most out of Hangouts, as well as how to receive further training and join this fabulous community at no cost.
Yeah, we've gathered together important information, and I constantly am updating it to keep it as valid as possible. Like we said, it is a moving target.
So if you've ever been through any other training and were disappointed in the content, you will not be disappointed with Ronnie. He's been training people for 25 years, and he helps people understand this complex information. It makes it super simple to understand and put it to use right away.
One of the things you'll find with me is that there's very little marketing fluff with me. I get straight to the point, and I help you understand the technology so that ultimately the technology will disappear. My goal is to help you know what to do so you're comfortable inside of this environment called Hangouts, and then you can focus on your message, because ultimately that's what really matters, not the tool, but the message. And that's not going to happen unless you have someone guide you, because it changes so often. So this is one of the skills I've developed over the years, the ability to explain that complex, complicated information in simple, easy to manage, instantly applicable pieces of information that you can then start and run with right away.
So Ronnie does explain this terminology clear and concise so you understand every detail, and there really is no fluff with him. You are absolutely going to love learning Hangouts from the master. When your training is complete, you will have total confidence and you'll be prepared for Ronnie's Hangout Mastery community. He's created this incredible, vibrant, interactive community that's an honor to be a part of. I think it's time to click on the button below.
Yeah. That one right down there. Go ahead. Should be right around there. That'll get you started.
Just click on it right now. So thanks again, Ronnie, for your time and for your very generous offer to these fine folks to help them get started on mastering Hangouts.
My pleasure. I'm glad we're able to offer it to you. Hey, and if you're seeing this right now, I think right below there somewhere there's a button. So go ahead and click on it and get started.
Get started now. Click. See you soon.